Hello, Avaiya family. I'm Ande Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of Avaiya University. Avaiya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Jerry Wise, is back with us today to talk about when families attack. Jerry has been a marriage and family therapist, addictions therapist, social worker, pastoral counselor, ACOA expert, psychiatric therapist, codependency expert, and much, much more. He holds degrees in political science, music, psychology, and marriage and family therapy. As a self-differentiation and relationship systems coach, he uses his knowledge in family systems theory to help clients get unstuck and find a true sense of self. He provides professional coaching sessions online to clients in the US as well as all over the world. Welcome back to Avaiya, Jerry.
Thank you, Ande, very much. It's great to be here. It's great to be here again and working with Avaiya.
Again and again. I know it's great to see you as always. And as I was mentioning before we hopped on, I love your topic. It's very timely and relevant. So why don't we talk a little bit about what are some of the ways that families attack?
And yeah, I've been working with families for many decades now and working with individuals within families. And actually, when I work with an individual, I work with them in the way that there's a whole bunch of people in the room, their family, my family, because we're all here in the room or online. And that's taking a family systems approach to helping coaching people and helping people to grow, to understand that we're not just this individual all stuck out there all alone. No, we're a combination of our family of origins, intergenerational things that have gone on in the past in our families. So it didn't start with me. It doesn't start with me. It starts long ago. And if we can take that perspective, I think it's easier to get unstuck and easier to get more healthy, easier to recover, easier to grow up if we take that perspective. So that's why I like the Bowen family systems perspective, or Edwin Friedman, who is also Bowen, his perspective, because it really has provided people some freedom. On this topic, I really wanted to address this because it is probably more common than we realize. Many times people don't think about their families attacking, but I work with a lot of people in whose families are in attacking mode. Even if it's simply a mode in which the family doesn't want you to grow up. You're still my child. I can ask you anything. I just had a client not long ago. His mother was asking, well, by the way, he's a well-known professional in his field of medicine. And his mother's asking him, well, when you bought this new car, did you get it on loan or did you pay cash for it? And he didn't want to tell her because he knew that information would go back to her and his dad, and they just talk about that and how inadequate he is or whatever, or that how can he be making that much money or not that much money, or it just becomes fuel for the family gossip. And it's not really about him or caring about him. It's about, let me gather more information. Well, if you have that's another way a family can kind of attack. Let me get information from you. Let me get information from you. Now, it's not a severe attack as someone disinheriting you. Right. I understand that, but it still is a form of, we're not just being. There are games afoot. And when those family games start, it can feel very attacking. Families can attack emotionally, financially. I've heard all of these stories. Psychologically, they can be traumatizing, even spiritually or religiously. And I think since I have been a pastor in the past, I realize families will get even attacking where, if you're making that choice, then you're probably just going to go to hell. Well, isn't that an attack? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an attack religiously. I mean, you can say, I disagree with you, or this is what I believe about hell or heaven or whatever, if we're going to talk about the religious area. But for me to say, well, this is, if you marry that person, then they'll never be a part of our family. Well, that's an attack too. Wait a minute, what, can't I decide who I marry? Isn't that something I get to choose? And many families, no, it isn't. It's a choice we all need to make, and you need to make it with us. And I'll talk about that with us here in a minute. So manipulating, rejecting, isolating, terrorizing, even at times, making threats, ignoring, corrupting. And I've had some people, even parents, getting their kids involved in criminal activity, hitting, spiritual abuse, as I mentioned, financial maltreatment, lawsuits, etc., scapegoating. Isn't scapegoating a family attacking if you're the scapegoat? Controlling, bullying, lying, withholding children or grandchildren, and many other ways as well. So those are some of the ways in which families can attack.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for going over all those and, kind of maybe getting people to think about things they're aware of in their own families and how this has occurred for them. So let's talk about why. Why is it that families attack?
And that's always a very good question. And of course, if we've grown up in a dysfunctional family, many times, guess who we blame if the family attacks? Me. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not being accepted? Why are they being critical of me? Why are they mistreating me in these ways? I must be defective. I must be bad. I must be worthless. So we tend to many times blame ourselves. And that's unfortunate. When actually the reasons often that families attack to expel pain and anger they cannot handle in the system. It's not really about you. Now, forgive me, I know it affects you. I understand that. It definitely affects you, but it's not really about you. In a systems approach, and when you think of systems, it's the system cannot handle this anger and pain, and so it must go somewhere. And it goes to who gets attacked. And so then we all, as the family, if we're all doing this together or parts of the family, we all unite and feel better when we attack you. Because then I don't have to look at me. I don't have to look at my pain, anger, hurt, whatever I'm not willing to look at. And it goes to you. And so it's thank you very much for being the scapegoat and the recipient of the attack. Now I can go sleep at night.
Right.
So families attack to, number one, expel anger and pain that they can't handle in the system and in themselves. A second reason is families attack to maintain the family's super self. That's this one big self that is the family that you're a part of. And you need to stay a part of this big glob called the super self. Or in my family, my name is Wise. My mother's maiden name was Wardwell. So the Wise Wardwell super self is what I grew up in. And to maintain that super self, we all partake of that growing up. And as we become more adult, we want to be less a part of that super self and more a part of our real selves, myself, not a part of just this super self. And so sometimes I'll say, oh, well, that's a Wise Wardwell rule that I'm living by right now. And that they project the messages in which we need to say, not I am me, but it is I am us and I am we. And again, they will attack because it threatens that super self that's so comfortable, even if it's dysfunctional. it still has a certain equilibrium. It still has a certain stability, though maybe negatively, but it's still stable in a way. And families will attack to use power to deal with their weaknesses and failings and psychological and emotional issues. And if you are one to wander away from that super self or start to develop your own self, then the attack can begin. We've got to get you back in the fold. And it almost has that cult-like flavor. And some families are cults. I mean, they really are. And you better toe the line, keep the secrets, don't trust anybody outside the family, don't tell anybody outside the family what you know and what and secrets that we have. You know, that all should stay. Or there was a woman who said to me recently, oh yeah, don't air our dirty laundry out there. Air our dirty laundry. That's the message, that you keep quiet and keep the dirty laundry in here. Because we're and if you do differently, if you make a different, if you change that, now we're going to have to attack.
Yes, just let it fester inside.
Let it fester inside. We'll just keep it under the wraps of denial. We'll just act like it doesn't happen, even if it's hurting somebody. We're just going to act like it's not happening.
Yeah, awesome. Any more on that before I ask you my next question?
The last thing would be families attack as a continuous extension of previous generational trauma. So families can attack because of trauma that has been in the family, and it gets passed down and then attack. Generally, what I found is if there's an attacking family, there was an attacking family before that, and before that, and before that. I mean, it often doesn't just pop up in this generation. You know, there's usually been some abuse or attack or in previous generations, which can be traumatizing. And then out of that trauma, we just keep on doing it.
Right.
And it continues on.
So here's a question I'm curious about, right? And people probably have different degrees of relationships with their families of origin, right? Some people are really thick in their families and they're in touch and they're together and all those kinds of things. So for people who like continue to feel, right, very connected to a family, even though it's an attacking family, like, why do we continue to feel that connection? And why can't we just walk away and live our own life?
Excellent question. And many times people will ask that question of themselves. Why do I stay connected? And because they're saying, first of all, many people are in denial and don't even accept or realize their families are attacking. That's number one. So they just stay connected. This is just the way it's always been. Hey, this is just my family. You just love them, even though they're taking all of your money, criticizing you every time you're together, putting you down, shaming you. Well, this is just my family. And aren't we supposed to just accept our families the way our? Well, yeah, we are to accept other people. I understand that. But attacking is a whole different matter. And so they will believe this is just they'll be in denial, so they don't walk away. They also fear what will happen if I do. And if I do walk away, I'll be all alone. I won't have any support of any kind. So I'll take this 95% attacking and negative toxicity to get 5% of if I ever need to borrow some money or something.
Right.
Because they'll be there for me. But boy, it comes at a big price.
Yeah.
That $500 loan is.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned money, because that is that holds such power over family relationships. Money is a big thing. That
major power.
Yep.
And who's going to help me when I have this baby? And who's going to, the normal things that family and good families might do. And we think we will lose all of that. Where will I go for Christmas? Where will I go for Thanksgiving or for, whatever holidays there are?
Mhm.
And so we fear that loss and we have that grief and we don't want to have those losses. So I'll stay connected in spite of all the attacking.
Right.
Thirdly, I mean, then you have the whole biblical, honor your father and your mother, which means you should never go no contact or never leave your family. Well, there's also some other verses too that say, leave your father and your mother to follow me. So which biblical verse you're going to go by here? Because it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And people will just take a simple look theologically at that. But they'll feel, oh, I got to honor my father and mother. So that means I got to take whatever they dish out.
Right.
And so they won't leave for that reasons, the fear of loss. And also you've got societal norms too. Oh, you don't see your family anymore? Oh, what's wrong with you? They don't say, oh, your family must be toxic. They go, well, I wonder are you crazy? Is there something wrong with you? Well, I don't want people questioning me about that.
Mhm.
Aren't you going to go be with your family this Thanksgiving? Well, no, we don't have a very positive relationship, and there are ways you can answer appropriately. But then they're going to go, oh, something's wrong with this family and with this person.
Right.
So you have societal judgment that you'll want to stay in and stay connected. And then you also have the fantasies. One day my family will be the family I've always wanted. If I just wait long enough, if I'm a better person, if I go to all the family gatherings, if I try to assuage my mother or assuage my father, then they'll love me and we'll all be one big happy family.
Right.
And it's the fantasy.
Right.
That well, I'm sure they love me, so I just need to do things differently, and then it'll come through. And so we'll have the fantasies that will keep us connected to that too.
Yeah.
So those are some of the reasons why it's hard to walk away. And
Mhm.
I have a lot of people say, oh, well, just tell them to walk away. And I'm going, wait, you don't understand how difficult that is to do. That's not easy to do. Well, I just walk away. Well, you just walk away because it's not your family.
Exactly.
You're more objective. Let's talk about you just walking away from your family. See how you feel about that.
Right.
It brings up a lot of issues. So there's a lot of self-differentiation and self-growth that's needed for us to be able to have those boundaries and go either low contact or no contact, or it takes some maturing and learning to do that. And that's what I help people to do.
Yeah. So let's dive into that, right? You mentioned self-differentiation. And so if someone is in an experience where they're in a family that attacks, like what steps can people take if they're in that scenario?
I think one of the steps is that first we have to come out of denial. Being attacked by the family, and many times I will tell people, well, and it's amazing how many times I've asked people, because they're telling me all these horrible stories, and I could give lots of examples of bad stories, and I'll say, well, in this one instance, I think, do you think your dad loves you? They had never thought about that. Well, I assumed he did, but everything they're telling me indicates he doesn't. It's like, and I'm the objective party. I know that too. I'm outside the family, so I can see maybe a little more clearly. And I'll say, well, do you think he really loves you? Or is this just a game or a power play with the inheritance and with, your job and the family business, or, those kind of things. And so this person starts to come out of denial. Oh, well, this really is wrong. People who love each other don't do this. Correct. I'm not saying you have to do anything right now. Let's just accept that people who love each other don't do this. And it's not just simply them being annoying or just accepting. They start to begin to not accept the attacking anymore. And they're not just annoying. And I hear all the statements, well, that's just the way my family is. Yeah, but I don't think you really accept your family as they really are. You are minimizing what your family's doing. That's different than accepting this is the way they are. You're minimizing it, and we don't want to minimize. Now you can make choices after that. So that's kind of step one, come out of denial.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I love that about, right, people who love each other don't do this. That's such a profound thing, because
it's a right. We don't think about that. We just assume
right,
everybody in the family loves everybody.
right.
They're just difficult to get along with. They're just kind of selfish at times. And I'm going, but let's take a look at all you've shared with me.
Exactly.
That isn't how I define love.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, many times we have to look at how we're emotionally or financially dependent on the family and deal with those things too, because maybe the family has worked it around where we are more financially or emotionally dependent on them. So we want to understand our functioning and work on completing our unfinished business and issues which are at work inside us that keep us connected, over-connected. And so we have to deal with those issues, our fantasies, what we hope for. Well, they'll come around. Everybody needs your mother's love when you're 50. I mean, I'm not saying your mother can't love you. It's nice to have your mother love you. I'm for that. I really am. But you're telling me it's a need. And I'm going, you're 50 years old. I don't know that you need a parental love right now. It'd be nice if they would. And some mothers and fathers love their kids, even into adulthood, which is fabulous, but not all.
Right.
And then I talk about once you become more aware of what's going on and you begin to become a little more intolerant to the abuse or toxicity or pain and the attacking, that, hey, I need to set some boundaries. Families who can tolerate this, and families are all on the continuum, so they're all kinds of families who can handle things down here, and some are way up here and can't handle anything. So I realize all families are different. Families who can handle it, I like for someone to begin to state their new awareness or their pain. Hey, I've been unhappy with being criticized so often. I'm unhappy with that. And I just want to let you know. Dad, when you give me a compliment, you always give me a backhanded insult. And I just heard a story recently where, someone had just purchased a car, and it was a nice car, which he could afford. No problem. It's definitely a nice car. Meets with mom. Mom says, "Oh, your car's so glamorous, but you're not. And you're kind of normal and kind of not so glamorous." Well, is that a compliment or a put down? Both.
Okay.
It's both. And so then when you say, well, that was rather hurtful or rude. All I was doing was complimenting your car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what about the other part where I'm just normal and not very glamorous, and I'm 39 years old. Why am I all of a sudden unglamorous? And why does it matter? And
Right.
why would you say that when you're trying to make a compliment? You don't do it. That's like saying, Jerry, you are really a handsome guy. But you are fat. Well, which is it? What's the point of this? And so getting those double messages is always very difficult. So stating I'm unhappy with what I'm unhappy with. I'm unhappy with how you criticize me so often. I don't like the questions about my personal life. I'll share with you things about me on my timetable. When I come over, I don't want to hear about XXX. I have been unhappy about this for a long time. I don't want to hear about my sister, my looks, my career, my relationships, etc. I just don't want to do that. So I'm giving you notice. I'm putting you on notice. I don't like this. Now, some families won't accept that. You might as well not even do it, because they're only going to use that to attack you more. Well, you don't need attacked more. So we then just need to behave, not give notice. We just need to make choices and not give notice. I don't always have to give notice. I give notice to people that I think might be somewhat changeable or malleable. But if they're rigid, narcissistic, then you can give all the notice in the world and it's not going to make a difference. You just begin to see them less, say my preference, I don't want to come, those kind of, to these family gatherings or whatever. We need to pay attention to our personal true feelings, to learn about systems feelings. And I have a video on those feelings. We want to learn about our own feelings, because often when families attack, there's a lot of suppression of our feelings. Because like me going, well, man, that would really hurt. Does it hurt you? Oh, well, let me think about that. Yeah, I think it does. But they hadn't thought that was hurtful.
Right.
Because this is just the way things are. So there's no sense feeling hurt. And so they're not aware of their true feelings. Take your power back. Saying no, setting boundaries, enforcing boundaries, exploring no contact if necessary. You can even learn to say, please stop. You must stop. Stop or I will leave. I mean, we can learn to ratchet the resistance up in a healthy way. And we want to become a mirror, not a sponge. I can mirror back what they're saying. You have been criticizing me a lot every time I'm with you. A sponge is when they criticize me, I just take it all in.
Right.
So I want to be a mirror, not a sponge. Those are some steps that I work with people on attacking families.
Yeah, I especially love that you brought awareness to, right, some families you can say certain things to and set, right, these boundaries. And then some families you can't, but you need to, right, take different behaviors or do what you need to do to keep yourself safe and happy, and just recognizing that not all families are going to accept that. So.
And do it without explanation.
Gotcha.
Because I had one client, she'd say, well, I want you to come to my birthday party. This is a mom and dad's going to be there. And they're very critical, very just not, I don't know who they love or what they love. And the son said, it's a 2-hour drive. I just prefer not to. And then they go, well, why? Why are you, what? I want to know your reasons. And why do people ask why? When I say, well, my preference is I just think I'll stay here and I won't come for the birthday lunch. Why do people say why? If they happen to be attacking families, they need more information. They want to change your mind. They want to hear your reasons so they can even discount those and criticize those. So I'm not going to give them that supply. I'm not going to give them, because that's my preference. I just choose to not come. Well, why are you not communicating with me? I'm communicating very well. I'm telling you, I choose not to come. What more? Well, you're not telling me all your reasons. I'm not 6 years old. I don't have to tell you all my reasons. Maybe I have, athlete's foot and I don't want to walk that far.
Right.
I don't have to tell you why. I really don't. We never have to answer any questions if we don't want to.
Yeah.
That's not a rule. Yeah. Unless the judge asks me. If a judge asks me, I got to answer.
Right.
If a policeman asks me, I got to answer. But other than that, I don't have to answer questions. I don't. And I'm not being mean or difficult.
Right. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. It's interesting to start questioning, right, what kind of things we think are true but aren't, right? That I must answer all these questions, or I must answer if someone asks me, or I'm obligated to always be connected to my family because I was born into it, right? Is it true?
I have their last name.
Right. Yeah.
But they may not be a nice family.
Yeah.
And you're right. I'm not obligated to answer those things. And you may get even more bullying or more defining. And I have a video on stop letting others define you. And they will define you by saying, oh, well, you're just being oversensitive. Oh, well, you're just being this. Or they're just defining you, which is also an attack.
Mm-hmm.
That's also an attack if you're defining me and judging me.
Right.
I prefer to not come. We are adults, and I can prefer that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for any reason I want, because I like chocolate ice cream over vanilla. It can,
right.
I just choose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm your mother. I'm fully aware that you're my mother. I'm fully aware you're my father. That has not been lost on me.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in fact, there are times I'm not sure I wish that were the case.
Yes.
But that's a little reactive and a little immature.
Yeah.
But I can be immature too at times.
Can't we all?
We all can be. We all can be. I'm trying to be more mature. It doesn't mean I will eliminate all immaturity. I'm trying to be more mature.
Right. Absolutely.
Work in progress. Work in progress.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing those steps, Jerry. And I'd love it, since we're running low on time, for you to share a little bit about your free gift. And then I'll ask you for some final insights. So what is that?
If you contact me on my website, send me a message, say you're coming from Avaiya, so that I have that, know that, and just say Avaiya, and that will tell me. I will send you a link to a free workshop and an additional video as well that you can have. That's kind of an exclusive video. The link, I think, we'll have on there that you can use that link to contact me. You can also go online if you find me or whatever and just write to me and say Avaiya, so we know it's. But that contact link would get it there, and I can get you that free information. If people have really appreciated that too.
Awesome.
In past.
Thank you, Jerry. And everyone watching, the button to that is below, that links over to Jerry's contact form. And then you put that information in. We'll have some instructions there, so you can just copy and paste it so Jerry knows where you're coming from. And do you want to share any last insights? I think you had a quote that you wanted to share.
There are a couple. I thought they're very brief. When families attack, this is not us cutting off from them. This is them leaving us. Because so many feel guilty about leaving their family or distancing from their family. When I'm distancing from someone, it's not because it's my choice. I mean, it is my choice, but it's because of things that have been happening with the other person or the family. That's why I feel the necessity to do that. And then lastly, you can live without your family. It's hard to live without peace of mind.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Andy.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this again, Jerry, and such a great topic. So thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a joy.
As always. And thank you, Avaiya students watching or listening right now, for showing up for yourself and being willing to go on this journey and talk about these topics. And we will see you all again very soon. Take care. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest class with Jerry Wise. He talked with us today about when families attack. I really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed that he specifically honed in on family dynamics, right? What's happening with your family members, those that you were raised by, people you are genetically related to, all of those kinds of relationships. And one thing that I wanted to touch on was what we were talking about around obligation. Right. It's interesting that I think so many of us, and it's a very societal thing, that, okay, so we were born into a family. So I tell myself I'm obligated to go to that dinner, or I'm obligated to do this thing, or I'm obligated to what have you, financially support someone, and on and on and on. And just starting to question, well, is that actually true? And right, just questioning in any dynamic, any kind of relationship you're in, am I doing this thing out of obligation, or am I doing this thing out of inspiration? Like I really truly want to, or I feel inspired to, as opposed to I have to because I'm related to you, or I have to because of some other obligation. So just things to think about in all of your relationships. Are you operating from a place of obligation or a place of inspiration? So little food for thought. And I hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you all again very soon. Take care.